Hello everybody and welcome to Maritime Innovations. When we talk about maritime digitalization and the growing pressure around compliance in Asia, one name that keeps coming up is Leo Grayson, Head of Commercial for APAC at OceanScore. Based in Singapore, Leo brings more than a decade of hands-on experience across software, fleet optimization and customer success roles in Europe and Asia. Today at OceanScore, Leo is right in the middle of the region's accelerating push toward data-driven compliance and FuelEU Maritime readiness. His perspective is shaped by years of working directly with ship owners of all sizes across Southeast Asia, helping them navigate new requirements while identifying real commercial opportunities behind them. For our audience at Maritime Innovations, this conversation offers a grounded and practical view on how APAC fleets think about compliance, where the biggest gaps still are, and why Southeast Asia may become one of the most dynamic growth regions for solutions like OceanScore. Leo, welcome to our interview today.
Thank you for having me.
So, how would you describe OceanScore's current traction and client interest in APAC, especially in Southeast Asia?
Exciting, in one word. In a bit longer word, it's been a very progressive growth over the last 18 months. So I would say we've done very well in Europe since we launched our solutions from 2022 onwards, and we've been gaining a lot of traction here in Asia. If we look at the fleet count, right now we have 2,400 ships at OceanScore on our platform, 900 of which are here in Asia. So that's about 40%. That's happened very quickly over these last 18 months, and we see this continuing.
That's really interesting. I didn't realize the growth in Asia was already that strong, especially within just 18 months. Thanks for sharing that context. And from your perspective, how different is the compliance mindset in APAC compared to Europe as we move closer to FuelEU Maritime?
It's totally different. It's totally different. So the European business mindset has climate as one of the main topics. It's being discussed at every conference, it's in every boardroom. We don't have that to the same level here. You have it being discussed in certain developed nations in Asia and APAC as a whole. But it's not a top priority, I would say, as it is in Europe. And so discussing things like EU ETS, FuelEU, or any other ETS schemes, there's a lack of knowledge, I would say. What these mean, how these are going to be paid for, who's accountable for what, these are just questions that have not been asked.
I think that makes sense. I can see how different priorities in the region shape the level of awareness. It's helpful to understand that contrast from someone who works so closely with the market. And what do you say, how relevant do you expect FuelEU pooling to become for Southeast Asian ship owners calling European ports?
It's becoming a lot more relevant. So before the IMO Net Zero framework failed to pass, pooling was questionable, I would say, in terms of how long of a strategy this would be. The reason being, using biofuels to adhere to EU ETS, FuelEU, and then the IMO Net Zero framework would be a lot more beneficial as the shipping company compared to pooling. But now that Net Zero framework has not passed, there is incentive to sell that surplus that the companies have generated. And so that will become more and more opportunistic for shipping companies in Asia.
I appreciate that explanation. The link between the IMO decision and the increased relevance of pooling wasn't obvious to me before. Good to hear how this shifts the opportunity for Asian owners. What kind of challenges do APAC fleets face today in terms of data quality, reporting, and C2 related monitoring?
They face the same issues as every other country. I think the difference is just lack of awareness. So in shipping, data transparency is an issue. You have data coming from the vessel that needs to be verified. Every class has a different verification process. Every company has different data collection methods. And so everyone's trying to go after this digitalization transparency space. The biggest issue here is transparency on emissions reporting, I would say. And so that comes to making sure that the new reports are correct, the data being fed in is correct, there's no human errors, reporting on this on a consistent manner. There are still many companies that don't have a digital new reporting system or are not having this going to voyage-based reporting. So these are continuous issues.
Right, that's a very clear picture. So the challenges are similar to Europe, but the level of awareness is different. That actually explains a lot of what we're hearing from other companies as well. And are there local partnerships, associations, initiatives in Singapore or the region that supports your growth?
For OceanScore, yes, and then for other shipping companies in Asia, I would say compared to all the shipping hubs that we're in Asia, Singapore is probably the most supportive. So the Singapore government themselves invest heavily in maritime. Maritime makes up nearly 20% of the economy in Singapore. And whether it's helping startups through the Pier 71 initiative, through these incubator programs, through hands-on support from MPA here, the Singapore government's very hands-on with helping companies get started, understand who the customers are, and with networking. And so how they've helped us at OceanScore is definitely through introductions to key stakeholders at MPA, so the Maritime Port Authority here, understanding what are some of the concerns of shipping companies that bunker in Singapore, what kind of fuel choices are they looking for. We are a member of the Singapore Shipping Association. They are very helpful in networking, introducing us to other shipping companies here in Singapore, seeing who the other vendors are. It's a huge ecosystem, I would say.
And looking ahead 2 years, where do you see the biggest opportunities for OceanScore in APAC?
Two areas. So first, of course, is Japan. So as of 6 days ago, we've opened our Japan office in Tokyo. We're next to Tokyo Station, and we've hired a local country manager who comes from the shipping space to manage our business development and commercial activities there. Japan for us is definitely the next growth market, I would say, for the next 12 months. And beyond that as well, but we expect to see a lot of traction over the next 12 months in Japan. That being, Japanese shipping companies are very different from other Asian shipping companies, and let alone European shipping companies. You have very large ship owners who charter their vessels out, charter in ships, do in-house, third-party ship management, trading, everything. And so their exposure to these regulations is very vast, but also how they're exposed is different depending on the business unit within the company. And so there's a lot of areas for us to help, I would say. In terms of other regions that are very promising for us, it would be places like Taiwan and then also Hong Kong.
That's great insight. The move into Japan sounds like a very strategic step, and it's fascinating to hear why that market is so different from others in APAC. Thanks a lot, Leo, for your time today and for sharing the insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And for our audience, I also recommend taking a look at our recent interview with Albrecht Grell, the GM of OceanScore, which gives a broader view on FuelEU Maritime and the pooling landscape. Together, both conversations offer a solid snapshot of where compliance and digitalization in shipping are heading. Thanks a lot for watching.